Hello guys, welcome back to Archangel RC and yet another video on the lame duck, which after this modification might need to be renamed to just the regular duck. Still doesn't deserve the aggressor name though. In my previous video, which you can check out here, I 3D printed a standoff mount for the motor and moved it 45mm back from its factory position, which in itself improved the plane's performance an estimated 10 to 20% and reduced the noise the plane made to an even higher degree. Following those results, next step was to find a way to taper off the tail in order to optimize the airflow to the propeller and see how much of an improvement, if any, this is going to make. To that end, I had to print out some additional items for the recessed space around the motor mount, and I did go through a few iterations before I got it good enough to like it. And only then proceeded to taper off the foam by cutting away all of that fat at the back. Being jagged doesn't help much when you have such thickness. For the purposes, I used a brand new factory sharpened filleting knife and I'm pretty happy with the results. May benefit from some sanding, but we'll leave that for after the testing has completed and I'm convinced it is worth the extra effort. The morning I went flying, I chanced upon some nice sunny weather with pretty much no wind to speak of, at least at low altitude, and since it was morning, there were no thermals either to help the plane, so I hope these would be the optimal conditions to actually see the improvement over the previous modifications. I also replaced the camera on the duck yet again because I wanted to have at least some HD recording from these flights, not only the DVR. So I brought the RunCam 2 back into active duty. As usual, before every flight, I check CG, and with the motor moved even further back, I did have to move the battery just a smidge forward because the RunCam is also adding a good deal of weight to the nose and helping in that regard. Then I always check the control surface direction and also that the autopilot is stabilizing correctly, and finally it was time to get this bird in the air. Noise-wise, I can't say there was much difference from the previous flights with the 45mm motor standoff, but realistically, even though now I've moved the motor a further 20mm back, I have not changed the distance of the prop from the tapered tail end, so noise was pretty much the same. Plane took off nice and with ease, and this is one of the good things about this one. So much surface area does translate into a nice and stable takeoff. Once in the air, I immediately started testing out cruise speed at the infamous 8 amps from the maiden flight, which back then, in similar atmospheric conditions, resulted in a 50 km/h cruise speed. With the motor standoff only in my previous flights, that speed went up to about 60 km/h at the same current, and with the tapered off tail, we can see that 8 amps with 3 km/h headwind does result in a cruising speed around 70 km/h, which is another 10 km/h increase from the previous mod and a 20 km/h increase from the maiden flight, or in other words, optimistically speaking, a 40% efficiency improvement over factory state. But a more down-to-earth and realistic estimation would be 20 to 25% improvement, which is still a pretty darn good result, especially considering I was quite disheartened after the maiden to the point where I almost gave up on the plane. So indeed, the lame duck has now become just a regular duck, but a duck nonetheless. It may be an aggressor with the twin tractor setup, but as a pusher model, it's still a duck. I did fly around like that for a while longer to confirm this result, and it did persist, so I can say with almost absolute certainty that these mods have made a heck of an impact on this plane's efficiency. Next, I checked top speed, and during maiden the plane was not able to reach 100 km/h at full throttle. After I added the motor standoff, it was able to do around 110 km with no wind and 120 km with some tailwind, but now it did 128 km/h under its own power with the stock motor, no wind to speak of, which is yet another indication that the tail mods do indeed make a difference. The plane did feel different, to be honest. It felt more slippery through the air, definitely. It was quiet and it moved at a pretty good pace, and the difference compared to its factory state was pretty obvious. Definitely do not regret putting in the effort to make all these mods, so I guess that rear end will get lightly sanded soon to round off those edges and make it look a bit better still. Now, since I had a good deal of battery left, I thought I'd move off into the distance a bit and try to gain some altitude, and guess what? It is now easier to get over 90 km/h speeds, which means I can actually afford to pull on that elevator without worrying that the speed will drop to 30 km/h and the plane will stall. And it also now, as a result of having more speed, climbs better and faster. I did try to have a go for the mountaintop, but sadly that issue is still up there and transmitting, because as soon as the antenna on the ground rotated towards the peak, the duck excrements hit the fan. So I turned back and moved off to the side, and video cleared up shortly after the ground antenna also moved away from the peak. Good news here is that the plane was able to get to over 2.5 kilometers from takeoff point with a good deal of battery capacity left, faster than ever before, and after having played around with cruise speed and full speed runs on the ground, whereas my distance attempt at maiden resulted in altitude gain to around 2.4 kilometers before I ran out of battery and had to turn back. So I can definitely say that the efficiency of this plane has been increased by modifying the tail section, and that is awesome news, as this now makes it a lot more usable. Sadly, on landing, the prop confronted the ground and lost the battle, so I have now mounted an APC 9x7.5E prop on the plane, which is 1 inch less in diameter but 0.5 inches more in pitch, so perhaps that, in conjunction with a sanded back end, may bring about some more gains in speed, in addition to making it a bit safer for my fingers on takeoff, but all of that will be in the next regular duck video. That is why I would urge you to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell button so you can be notified when that is published. And just in case you have found this video interesting and useful, like and share it, and also leave comments should you so desire. Any engagement with any of my videos gets my channel seen more and helps it grow, and I do appreciate any help to that end. Also, most links in the description of this video are affiliate links, and buying stuff through them helps support this channel as well as my family at no additional cost to you. Another way you can support me is Patreon. The link is also there, and I would like to say a big thank you to all the people who have supported me so far and will continue to do so. Also, special thanks to my Patreon supporters who have stuck by me through these trying times and me slacking off on new videos over the past year. I really appreciate your support, guys, always, but now more than ever, because these really are trying times for all of us. I wish you all happy and safe flying, and I will see you in the next video.